so, because mine's not.
It hasn't started yet.
I love how it's always on Yumri.
I'm waiting on Jew.
It is. It's like, oh,
Well, at least my last one.
hello. Can y'all hear me?
So, I go off of mute when I'm talking, or we're talking to yours. Do I need to unmute all my?
How's everybody doing this afternoon?
Good.
Everybody good? Perfect. We'll wait a couple more minutes. We're just trying to get everything set up here and ready to go.
Oh, it is here.
Oh, here.
No, it's me. And then I'll get down.
Making sure we're good. A couple of things as we get started. Make sure that your computer or your microphone is muted, please, so we don't hear everybody's background noise going on and we get a good connection. Also, please make sure that your video is on, because we would like to see everybody's faces. I know that people are like, no, we don't want to see us. Trust me, we don't like to see our faces either. We sat here and laughed about it earlier, but we would like to see everybody's faces. So please, if you do not have your video on, please go through and turn that on so we can see your faces, because we do like to see that as we go through and go through all of everything we're doing here. We do want to see your faces. It is nice to see everybody smiling. So please turn your video back on. If you have not already gone through on your chat, if you'll scroll over on the bottom, over to the left, you will see a little button that says more with 3 dots. If you will click on that, options will pop up. Click on your chat, and please go ahead and type your name and what school you are at so we can see who is here. And I see some of you have already done that. Thank you for doing that. Let us know who is here, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, so just in case we have some last minute things that we need to talk about. Susie, I love your enthusiasm. Her name is in all caps. It is Susie. I love it. I'm going to go ahead and mute us for just a few more minutes so we can kind of finish some last minute things, because you don't want to hear us talking. We'll be back.
Wendy, I can't hear you if you're talking.
Because I think I'm
Okay, I think we are just about ready. Can everybody hear me again?
Yes.
Perfect. So if you have not muted yourself while we are actually doing the presentation, if you will keep yourself muted, we will have times where we want you to unmute yourself and participate with us. But when we are not doing that, if you will please mute yourself so we don't have a lot of background noise. Also, if you will go through on the chat, scroll down on the bottom, and far right-hand side, there's a little box that says more. If you will click on that, click on the chat box, open that up, and then type your name and what school you are from in the chat box so we can see who is all here. We would appreciate that, please. And I will try and remember to do that towards the end for people that accidentally came in late so we kind of know who is here also. I think we missed that on the last one. But if you'll do that, we will appreciate that, please. I will try and monitor the chat box if we have any questions throughout our presentation. If I missed your question, just bear with me, type it again, and we'll try and get to that. So hello, good afternoon. If you're joining us for the first time, we appreciate you taking your time out to be with us today. I am Wendy Hagerton. I am your technology coach for the district. If I don't know you, hi, nice to have you here. The other coaches, don't laugh at me, are going to introduce themselves. So I'm going to mute myself really quickly and let them go through and tell you who they are.
Hello, my name's Angela, and I am also one of your instructional reading coaches.
And I'm Kathy Klepper, and I'm also a reading coach, and we're glad you're with us this afternoon.
I'm Carrie Pruitt, and I'm one of your instructional coaches, and thank you for being here again today. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, and I'm Skylar Kirkpatrick, and I'm going to be one of the instructional coaches starting this year.
Glad to have you.
Okay, so again, thank you for being here this afternoon, and thank you if you've been with us for the past couple days, this morning and yesterday. I know Kathy has given some amazing presentations. She has on a whole group and on differentiated whole group instruction, small group instruction. So before we jump in, I'm going to pass it over to Carrie. She's going to give you a few little questions, and I'm going to mute.
Okay, just like we did this morning, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. If you'll just type them in your chat, the answers, what you think in the chat box. The first questions, and we'll give you a couple of minutes to answer them. What is the difference between Tier 1 small group differentiation and Tier 2 interventions? The difference between Tier 1 small group differentiation and Tier 2 interventions. Please type that in the chat box. Standards versus the skill gap. Good. Small group is on grade level. Let's go so fast. Yeah. Very good. Awesome. Yes. Really good. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, very good. The second one is explain how Tier 1 small group differentiation and Tier 2 interventions work together. How do those tie together? Please answer in your chat box. Chuck. Good job, Chuck. Susie, yep. Yay! Good job. Okay. Great job, guys. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, sorry, it took me a little second because I see your little pointer and I was like, why isn't that moving? But it's yours seen on the screen. Apologize. All right, so before we jump into a deeper look into the Tier 2 intervention portion of our training, I just wanted to kind of go over a couple of slides. I know they're not in your the PowerPoint that we sent y'all because it was something we just thought after we said that we felt, man, we have to go over these pieces because they're so important, things we need to keep in mind as we are going through our instruction. And this is not only for Tier 2 intervention time, but this research is applicable all day, every day in the classroom. And I know Kathy has gone over some of these slides before in our previous presentations and trainings that we've given. So this might not be something new to some of you, but hopefully it's just something to remember and to keep in mind as we are in our instruction and we're working with our kids and preparing our lesson plans. You know, our goal is we always want kids and our students to be engaged, actively engaged in the lesson. And so what research is saying is, sorry, let me move this little chat piece off my screen. Okay. So what research is saying, you know, when we're teaching and what we're learning shows that we will remember most when we do these things, what we're remembering the most. So what I'm gonna need y'all's help.
Got it.
As I read, you fill in this blank. And like I said, you have it on your screen. I know if you want this slide, just email one of us and we will get this slide to you. We apologize, it's not in your PowerPoint that we sent you, but here we go. Okay, we remember 10% of what we
Read.
We remember 20% of what we
Hear.
We remember 30% of what we
See.
I want the slide, sorry, just saw the chat. We remember 50% of what we
Both see and hear.
70% of what we have,
Discuss with others.
80% of what we have,
Experience personally.
good. We remember 95% of what we,
Teach.
yes. And all these pieces that, I mean, we work through a lot of these in our instruction. It's not saying one's more important than the other, but just keeping in mind how many times are we getting to that 95% during that instruction. There is an appropriate time that we just are going to be doing some reading. That has to happen. But just keeping in mind, like, am I working through a lot of, am I setting up my classroom for my students to be able to remember what I'm teaching and to master what they're getting? And the great piece is we have some things already in place in our district. Really quick, if you'll type in the chat or you want to unmute and share, what are some of the things that we have in place in the district, strategies that support many of these things that we see here? Anchor charts, yes. Collaborative conversations. Model, anchor charts, yes, exactly. Our non-negotiables, those are in place. They support, I mean, pretty much everything you see in here. Somehow, some way they support this. So, and like I said, and I know Amy said it in our earlier, this is research-based. I mean, anything we try to roll out, we really believe it should be research-based. We don't want to just give you just what we think is best. It's what research says. So just remember, I mean, we just felt like this is just a reminder, like as I'm planning my instruction, and especially for these babies that we're fixing to talk about, our striving students that need that additional support, that intensive strategic intervention, we got to keep these things in mind for them as well. Our next slide is another thing that I know Kathy has also presented and said, this is one of her favorite slides. because this is her. I mean, she just prays. But you know, just how important praise is for our students. I mean, praise, research has shown it changes the brain. So, and it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, like dopamine. Okay, so yeah, when we first heard dopamine, I was like, what kind of drug is that? Like, who does that? Is somebody hooked on that or what? No, so Kathy looked it up and found the definition of dopamine, and I'm gonna read that to you. A chemical in the brain that propels one to achieve an outcome. So if it's just something like, I just have to praise my kiddo and their brain is gonna release this chemical, like no charge. They're not having to purchase this chemical naturally, and it's going to propel them to just really want to reach that outcome, that learning objective, whatever it is we're trying to get across. How hard is it to just genuinely, that's the big piece, genuinely praise our students. It doesn't cost us anything to look at our students and find the good in them, because they all have good in them. And we, sometimes they're challenging, but they're somebody's baby and they're so good. So we just got to find that and give them that praise, and their brain's going to naturally release this chemical, and they're going to be going, and it's going to stimulate them to be self-confident and motivate them, and what the attention the learner is going to have with this. So, just a big, big piece. And how many times have we received some praise? Your principal comes in and is like, hey, you're doing a great job with that differentiated small group instruction. You're like, oh yeah, now I'm going to do even better. You just get excited when somebody praises you and you want to do even more. So just 2 slides that I felt, or that we felt we needed to, again, just a reminder of our instruction, especially with the babies we're fixing to talk about in Tier 2 instruction. All right, so let's jump in to Tier 2. All right, so this is happening outside the literacy block. Okay, I know many times, even when I got into this position, I had a confusion. So learning this, I was like, okay, this is outside of the literacy block. These are your interventions. For most, I know we have 30 minutes in the elementary, middle school. It might look a little different for you because you don't have necessarily an additional 30 minutes on top of your period to work with some of those babies that you have in your class. But for elementary, 30 minutes or plus, because I know some principals have given their buildings up to an hour of intervention time. So this is all, the minimum is at least 30 minutes is what the district has asked. So if you have more, you are so blessed. Great. Middle school, I know, like I said, it looks a little different. As we go deeper, we'll give some ideas on how could we make it work also in the middle schools. So, all right, that is, jump in. All right, so the purpose of Tier 2 intervention is, I know you're on mute, if you'll read this with me, to provide small group skill gap. Stop there. What is it? Skill gap. Instruction. Yes, instruction on grade level or below grade level?
Below grade level.
Below grade level. And I know also for Carrie will kind of talk to you a little bit on that.
On kindergarten, I'm sorry. Of course, if they're behind, it's all on grade level. And so if you've taught a standard and they did not master it, then you're going to go back to a previous skill that they didn't get, whatever's causing them not to master that standard. So in kindergarten, it is on grade level standard.
Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, kinder's another world sometimes. They're on their little island over there. So it is a little different because I'm not necessarily off grade level, but for everybody else, you will drop down into whatever grade level skill gap they need, and we're going to work in that. So the next piece, and on your printout, if you printed out the PowerPoint, there was a little tiny typo. We fixed it. As you see the title, it says Tier 2 interventions. If you printed out the PowerPoint, it said Tier 2 small group. We wanted to kind of remove that small group piece. It is small group, but just with the teacher. Not everyone has to work through small groups. So we just wanted to clarify that. So we went ahead and took small group off because not everybody's in small group, just the kids that are working with the teacher. So just a quick clarification if you've printed out this PowerPoint. All right, so our second bullet here says striving students and third dose. It is in somewhat a third dose, but not necessarily if you're when we're talking standard wise, but it is their third time to come with the teacher and have that opportunity to receive that one-on-one, that teacher touch to help them, support that area that they need support in. So in this group, I know Kathy said this earlier, if they're those striving students, you want to make that group even smaller. 3 would be great, but I know sometimes that can't happen when you have a lot of your kids that are striving students, especially when you have identified that specific skill gap. So from 3 to 5 is what's suggested. Again, skill gap, not necessarily grade level standard. Outside the 90-minute block, this is happening, 30 minutes. So the next thing is, and while you're in those 30 minutes, it has to be purposeful. Like, this is your opportunity. Like I said, digging deep. How do I know they were striving students? It's because I dug deep into the data. Like, I went deep. Like, this is specific. I mean, you are now dealing with what exactly is that block they missed. What was that piece of the standard that they lost in kindergarten, in first grade, in third grade, that I need to provide them with, so that when I'm presenting them with the standard, the grade level standard, they're going to be able to be successful with it. That's why it's so important that we get so specific into the data when we're dealing with tier 2 instruction, and identify those specific needs and what it is. Some kids might have multiple. Where do I start when I see all those needs? Where do I start? And be purposeful. We don't want to waste our time during this time. This is our, I mean, I know that's an area that we already struggle with, time. So when we have them, we got to make it purposeful. So when you're in this time, you still can do many of the strategies you do in whole group. You're still going to model for some of these kiddos. You're still going to need to give them some of that guidance. They're just sitting with you. You're closer, proximity, but it's dealing with the skill gap. Just understand, it's dealing with the skill gap, but I can still model with the skill gap. I can still provide guided I do, we do, you do with the skill gap. And the huge piece also, a big piece, I know Kathy earlier was saying, model. I would say for tier 2 intervention is monitor. You want to monitor what's going on every day. Again, time is crucial here for these kids. So when you're with them, you have to be monitoring. Do they got it? Did they get that skill gap? Okay, good. We're going to move on. What's the next piece that they need? If they got it, they don't need anymore. Hey, they're ready for core. They don't need to see me during tier 2 interventions. This group can be fluid. It's not going to always be the same group for 2-3 months, or I only change them every 9 weeks. No, this group should be changing as they're achieving those skill gaps. As you're filling that skill gap, they're ready to go. What's the next thing they need? Got it. Let's go. What's the next thing? So like I said, fluid, and your monitor when they're sitting with you, everything is monitoring. Good ways to monitor is running records. I know Kinder, you have big time running records that go on. Kathy spoke to you about a notebook. If you have a notebook during guided reading, you could also bring that notebook with you during tier 2, and you're jotting down what's going on. iStation is a huge piece. You have your progress monitors during iStation, but even then we only progress monitor every month. If you see that they got it, what's the next skill gap that you're seeing? I'm gonna let y'all take care of the chat. Sorry, I get distracted with chats. So again, document what you're seeing. For middle school, I know, like I said, I know you don't have necessarily the 30 minutes to set aside, but we were just kind of brainstorming on how could this work for middle school. We thought of, like, you have bell work. During bell work, just even 10 minutes during that period, instead of them doing the bell work, pull some of those kids that hey, I know when I'm in core, they're missing this little piece for that light bulb to turn on. I'm gonna pull those kiddos with me while everybody else is doing their bell work. 10 minutes, go over what they need, send it back. Even 5 minutes. Hey, we're doing writing, and I have them writing a research paper or essay paper, and I noticed their adjectives need some help. They need some help to strengthen that writing piece with some additional adjective support or verb support. You pull them aside, just go over some, hey, look, if you add some of these adjectives, it really beefs up your writing. They might just need that. Send them back, see what they're doing. Those are some ways we thought for middle school. You could, how do you incorporate that additional time for them to fill in that skill gap for them? I know we've also given the example of, say you are teaching division during core instruction, and they struggle with multiplication. Well, when I'm identifying that skill gap, we want to be mindful that skill gap is still going to support what they're learning in the whole group core or differentiated instruction. For example, the division. I know I'm teaching division during my core. They struggle with multiplication. We give them a multiplication table during core for them to be able to pick up the concept of division. But I know as soon as I get into tier 2 interventions, I'm going to work on multiplication because it's going to help them when I'm in my core instruction. So just, if possible, keep that in mind. When I'm identifying my skill gap, how is it supporting also the core instruction? Resources, let's go to resources. So where is this in instruction for elementary? Again, you have it in your framework. It is built in, but it's outside again the block. As you see, it's not attached to those other pieces that we spoke about earlier this morning and yesterday. It is outside the block, 20 to 30 minutes, but that's where you can find it on your framework. If you're referring to when you use your framework as reference, that's where that is. All right. Oh. The next thing is, I know we have provided many of you with these Tier 2 intervention binders. There's got to be multiple in your building. You also have access to them digitally through Wonders. These are amazing. We've heard so many teachers share about how they have had so much success using these binders. I don't know if you reach a mic. I know, did you want to share anything on this? So I'm going to have Ms. Kirkpatrick, Skylar, kind of share a little on that.
You're good. Okay. We found that these binders work really well when you have a substitute because they're super scripted, easy to use plans that you can leave out for those subs to cover. You know your skills are still going to be met when you leave. Super easy to use. We love using those, especially when you just need to fill in that little gap. Pick exactly what it is you're wanting. You pull that lesson and you use that. They are perfect to use.
Thank you. All right. I apologize if you had an echo. Sorry. Yeah, it's working through technology when computers are kind of close. While we're still social distancing, they're still echoing from each other. Okay, so yeah, those are the intervention binders. Like I said, they are K through 5th. Middle school, I would highly recommend, if you have whatever programs you have access to, dig in and see if they provide any intervention piece. I know sometimes they're identified as RTI pieces. Intervention pieces. So, I mean, just digging through your resources and see what there is available in your resources that they have in middle school and high school. So we're very blessed and fortunate that Wonders has provided many, many great opportunities for us to be able to fill that skill gap. The next thing we have is iStation lessons in the district through iStation. The cool piece, I'm so excited, is that we are getting the iStation program. And so we've heard tons of great things about it from one of the other new additional reading coaches that we got, Jody. She worked in Levington as an instructional coach as well, and Levington had the program. So she has shared already like what it can do. So we're really excited to be able to have that program that's going to provide you with additional just resources to be able to dig in, and even that the data that it's going to provide is going to get down deep to that specific need. I mean, she said it will get down to like, it's the letter A they're still struggling with. So I'm super excited to be able to have access to that. Like I said, that is coming this year. So we will have that as also another resource to help us guide our instruction during this intervention piece. All right, and the next piece that we have are the phonemic awareness folders. We have used these. Actually, this was shared by Lupi Saldana over at Southern Heights. We got Kathy reached out to the district that created these, and they gave us permission to run these for y'all. So I know a lot of you have these. These, if you do want a copy of this, we can get you a copy of this. So just send us an email and we'll send this to you. At this time, okay. So we'll get this over to y'all. If you need that, just send us an email. Again, really good phonemic awareness is a huge block that we have encountered at every grade level. If they are struggling with reading, it will about 80% of the time will tie back to phonemic awareness. So big piece. So, all right, let's see. We are going to show you a quick little video of what about Tier 2 instruction. It was a really great video. Just, gonna share that with you. Wendy's gonna set that up. Mute.
not. Let's try that again.
Is this in Biggie or Lily? Short. The word. I can't remember that one. Oh. That's get. Then that's gets. Exactly.
A critical aspect of Tier 2 reading intervention is that it is an addition to the Tier 1 core classroom reading program.
You don't know, I still don't understand why.
Increasing instructional time is essential to increasing struggling readers' competency.
When a child moves into the Tier 2 level, we're probably going to see that child 5 days a week if we really want to make a difference.
So what we say is the child will receive small group instruction in Tier 1 as part of the regular classroom instruction, but this child given an additional 30 minutes a day for say 10 to 20 weeks is providing another 2.5 hours a week of reading instruction, providing another 22 hours, 22.5 hours of instruction over 10 weeks, and that goes a long way.
Today we learned about long I. What was the new spelling? What sound does IGH make?
An important consideration for Tier 2 intervention is that it's connected to Tier 1 instruction.
Knowing that in the classroom for a couple hours every day, they're getting that full comprehensive reading program. And during our intensive intervention, very focused instruction on exactly what they need.
Okay, so a big piece that I had seen in that video was the time that she spoke about. I mean, how amazing is it if we just with the 30 minutes extra that we give those kids every day, like Kathy has said, most need most time. I mean, we have to give them that time. She spoke about over 10 weeks, that's about 22.5 hours of additional instruction. That's that extra time they had with you as the teacher to support them and provide those supports and that scaffold they need. Just to, for them to be able to be successful when they get to that core. The more that we're able to fill those gaps, it's kind of like a house. If you're building a house, if you have a weak foundation, you're gonna have issues when that house is built. So we want to have that solid foundation for these babies, and we do that when we see those gaps, we fill them. As soon as we see them, we're filling those gaps through Tier 2 interventions. All right. So now here's a little recap and a little review. Actually moving pretty quick. Now I'm going to have you in your chat. Sorry, just read another chat. If in your chat, if you'll fill in just what are just recap Tier 2 for us, just some important things you've heard, just important concepts, elements of Tier 2, if you'll fill that in or type that in your chat. Yes, you're striving kiddos. 30 minutes, skill gap, fluid grooves, monitor. Great. Yes. Intervention binders, awesome. Yeah, those are great resources. Model, monitor, 3 to 5 students. Very good. All right. I think y'all have a pretty good understanding of this Tier 2. Again, reminder, just the praise. Let's dose them up with some dopamine and get them excited about learning and keeping them activated in their learning, active in their learning. All right. So now we're going to play the dice game. And oh, that's you. Sorry, I was all clicking on my dice. All right. Okay, if you'll type in your chat box the answer to the question. So who receives tier 2 interventions? Good, yes, our striving kiddos. Kids that need that skill gap filled. Those who are struggling, students when they have difficult. Very good, all right, let's go to, all right, roll the dice again. Oh, I read the wrong one. I read 6. All right, what is the minimum? I had read 5 a while ago, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
6.
Yes, I read that.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay, what is the minimum? Did I have 6 a while ago? Or was it 5, the
That
dice?
was 5.
Okay, well, I'm gonna read this.
Okay.
What is the minimum amount of time required for tier 2 interventions? Good job. Yes, 30 minutes or more if your campus is set up to have a longer intervention block, or you as a teacher were able to make that happen in your classroom, make it happen. All right. Question number 3. What is the focus of tier 2 interventions? Skill gaps, yes. Missing skills, the gap, off grade level standards. Good. All right, now question number 2. During tier 2 interventions, what are the other students doing? I don't think that's
No, it is. So that'll be good. They're
Yeah.
working independently, independent work, practicing core skills.
I would.
They're not in a rotation. Good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna speak a little on that. Very good. I think, you know, even though I feel like I probably didn't speak heavily on that piece, I think just looking at your responses, many of you have it. Again, during this time, the main purpose is for the teacher to be with those kiddos that need those skills. So the other kids can be doing their independent work, they can be doing AR, they could be doing Mayan, they could be doing the writing, journal writing, whatever it is that you want them doing independently. The big piece to keep in mind is you don't want this time interrupted. You don't want them coming to you, interrupting your time with these kids. This is your time. You're focused with those struggling, they're striving students, you're striving kiddos. So whatever the other kids do, independent work would probably be the best. Yeah. If you want to have groups set up, you can. I know there's some that do have groups, they can.
Enrichment.
Enrich, yes, you can also enrich during this time. Your other kids can be doing some enrichment activities. Like I said, this time it's really, the purpose is you want to be with your striving kids. What the other kids is, if you have, I know I've talked to teachers that do have another set of workstations going on. That's up to you, but it doesn't always have to be workstations either. So question number 3, what kind of grouping is necessary for tier 2 intervention at the teacher table and why? 3 to 5 students. Yes. Very good. Yes, it's about 3 to 5 students, and I see that's what I'm getting that response. Also, it is homogeneous, but this homogeneous might look a little different than the one you have during differentiated instruction. Sometimes it could be the same kids, but when you're in differentiated instruction, you're basing that off the text, like Kathy had said. It's the text at their level. Especially in elementary, you have iStation. You're drilling down into the sub-skill. You might have kids that just are in letter knowledge, and that's what you're going to be working on with them. Or phonemic awareness, that's what you're going to pull them, even though they might have a different different reading level ability that when they're in differentiated instruction. So this is, your groups might look a little different from differentiated, or it could be the same, because sometimes you have the same kids that are dealing with the sub-skill are the same kids that are at this level text. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's directed to the sub-skill or the skill, and it is homogeneous. And data driven, exactly. Question number 4, what resources are available to support Tier 2 interventions? Binders, iStation, phonemic awareness folders, yellow pages. Yes. Very good. Yes, iStation, the binders, the phonemic awareness. I had somebody also type in the yellow pages and wonders. Those are great. Those actually work for both differentiation, and you can use those also in Tier 2. For middle school, I know this is a little bit more of a challenge again, but I think the great part is, you know, if you are a math teacher in middle school or high school, many times I just know because my daughter struggled with math. And so when I visited with her math teacher, you know, he told me, you know, these are, and I even set her up with a tutoring, these are the foundational skills she missed. This is what she needs intervention. So I think in a lot of these content areas, you're a master of your content, you know, and so you kind of know just looking at your kiddos, hey, he's missing this, that's why he's struggling. And you a lot of times you're probably able to identify some of those skill gaps, even though you might not have something directly printing out, this is the skill gap. But I think, you know, I've visited with even Wendy about how would you identify, and you know, like, I think you said the method, the scientific method, if they didn't,
science, just basic skills.
Those basic skills that you know are foundational, you know, that's where you're going to have to work with some of your middle school and high school kiddos during that Tier 2 intervention time that you can pull during your bell time. All right. And that is it. I'm going to pass it over to Miss Carrie, and she's going to do a quick little overview of the all the pieces of the puzzle.
Okay. Now that we've been through the tiered instruction, we had Tier 1 yesterday, Tier 1 differentiation small group this morning, and now Tier 2. We wanted to recap it for you and make kind of like a tiered instruction cheat sheet per se. And you will get this, we'll send this to you in the fall, but Wendy's going to put a link at the end of the presentation so you can have this. This will be good for elementary and secondary to have, just a quick reminder. The literacy block, and remember that these 3 pieces tie together. They're all together, even though the literacy block is Tier 1 whole group, Tier 1 small group differentiated instruction, and then Tier 2 is outside the block, but they all tie together. So your literacy block, just a real quick recap, is 90 minutes. Your Tier 1 is your first dose, that's your whole group instruction. That's your core instruction, your grade level standards. It's teaching all students. The main thing is your model. You're doing the gradual release, the I do, we do, you do. This is where you're going to use your non-negotiables, and you're going to constantly be formative assessing your students as you walk around and working with them. So that's your whole group. Then you're going to break into your small group differentiated instruction. That's the second dose. These are still your grade level standards. This is approximately 60 minutes. This is where you're going to be working with differentiated text. Again, you're working with all students receive this tier. Your teacher table, you have homogeneous groups. This is where you're doing the other kids when you're with the teacher table, where the other students doing, they're at their workstations. This is where, when you're with the students at your teacher table, you're working with the just right text. And this is where, like Kathy said this morning, this is where the real learning happens in this tier. Okay, and then the last one that we just talked about with Angela is outside the block, the Tier 2 interventions. This is 30+ minutes. If you're fortunate enough to have an hour, great. This is the skill gap, the off grade level standards. This is for your striving students. This is where you're going to get the foundational skills. Small teacher group, you're going to homogeneous group them as well. And then, as Angela said, this is where you monitor your students. And like I said, Wendy will link this at the end of the presentation for us.
Okay, do y'all have any questions? Again, just keep in mind, you want all these pieces working together just, you know, we want that success for our students. Do y'all have any other questions about any of these pieces? We're all here to answer any questions you might have. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it over, you're welcome to email us and ask us or text us if you have our numbers. We're here for y'all. Well, if we don't, I'm going to pass it over to Wendy and she will get you set up for the links. I mean, for the survey. And
Okay. Okay, so a couple of things. If you did not put your name in, let me check chat real quick. It's going crazy. Oh, just all thank yous. Okay. If you did not put your name in the chat, would you please do that? Put your name and what school you're at so we have record of that. We would really appreciate it. Also, give me just a second and I will put in a link. This one, the first link I'm going to put in, that is not what I wanted to do, will get you paid for attending today. So that first link right there that I put in will get all of your information in so that you will get paid for attending today. So please make sure you click on that link. If for some reason it doesn't work, just email me and I will send that to you. The second link I'm going to put in is going to be a link for our cheat sheet here. And let me copy that link. Ooh, I got way too many windows open. I can't see. Okay. The second link here is a link to just this page here without what I was trying to type in. I know we've had some questions from some of the new teachers that may have not done any training on the non-negotiables. Maybe you came in at a weird time or just have been here. We've had some that have privately texted me and asked what the non-negotiables are. So we do have training on that tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon. If you did not sign up for the non-negotiables training, please email me and I will send you the links for that so you can join us with that. So the first link here is the Google form to get you paid. The second link I just sent is a link that just has what Carrie just went over. It's our little cheat sheet that has all of the information on the literacy block and outside the block here on all of this. Okay, any questions? Everybody good? All right, thank you so much for joining us. I am gonna mute us, but I will leave everything on for just a moment in case you need this. If you do have a question, I'm gonna leave the chat on. So if you need to type something, ask something, please do so, but I will not have any sound on. So if you ask us something, we will not hear you. So please type it in the chat, okay? Thank you guys for joining, we appreciate it. Some of you we'll see tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you.
Hmm.